the moment that you say that there's no objective moral truth, the moment that you say there's no actual moral standard by which we can judge things, then you actually can't say that something is really wrong. You can say you don't like it. You say you don't prefer it. You can say you think it would be better otherwise. But you can't say that is wrong and you're wrong for doing it. So a couple weeks ago, I made a video called Is Justice Fantasy? And so go check that out if you need to. Kind of a precursor to this. But in that, I talked about how if there's no right, then there's no wrong. If there's no justice, then there's no injustice. And I made a short that I pulled out of that video that basically keyed in on that point. And I got this incredible comment that it was something that I almost couldn't have like planned if I had tried, because it was really somebody keying in on exactly what I was saying by basically telling me that what I was saying wasn't connected at all. And so here's the comment. And I just love this, especially that it says, try to think, because I think I'm the one that's thinking here. Because these things that I talked about, which is essentially where I think they got hung up, was that I said, if there is no right, then there is no wrong. If there's no justice, then there's no injustice. And this is where I think they got hung up. You can't tell people that you ought not to behave a certain way. You ought not to say certain things or to do certain things if there is no moral truth, if there is no objective moral standard, right? If there's no right and no wrong, if there's no justice, there's no injustice. And that's where they said, those two things aren't connected. If there's the fact that there's no objective moral truth does not go connected with this idea that we can't tell each other that we're wrong. And again, because I said, I think again, what they're responding to is I said here in the West right now, especially in America, there's a whole lot of us saying, you ought not to do that. You ought not to say that. You shouldn't act that way. You shouldn't speak that way. And yet we simultaneously hold this view that there is no right and there is no wrong objectively. And then this person chimed in and said exactly what I was saying that people are saying, which is those things aren't connected. But they are. They really are. And if there's no objective moral truth, right, if there's no standard by which we can objectively judge things, then we can't really say that you shouldn't do that. Again, it can be a preference thing, but we have to understand that it's a preference thing. And really, the reason I say that is because, like, what's the basis, right? What's the basis? Is the basis what? So human flourishing is the basis. Okay, well, by whose definition? Like, what constitutes human flourishing? Is the basis popular vote? The most popular viewpoints, those are the right ones. Well, we definitely wouldn't say that, right? And what happens when that changes, right? And does that mean that all I have to do is just campaign long enough and get enough people buy into my viewpoint, and then that will make me right? Where if I was wrong before, now I'll be right because enough people are surrounding me. And I don't think any of us would say that. And what's further is I think none of us really believe that's true. None of us really believe that morality is relative, even though a lot of us say it. And in some ways we'll argue for it. The thing is that none of us act like it. And really where I think we act like it the least is when it comes to something being wrong. And if something is definitively wrong, that means something is definitively right. And I think this is where the argument against objective morality breaks down is, people always say, well, we have all these different ideas about what's right and what's wrong. Well, yes and no. Actually, we have a lot of really common ideas across cultures and across time periods, especially about things that are wrong, but also about things that are right, even where they are, let's say, different, even where some, view some things as right, others view the same types of things as wrong. The fact that we all have some idea that there is something that's wrong and some idea that there is something that's right, and we strive for those things is, I think, an indicator that there is something some standard by which we judge things that we're trying to get to, even if we don't have it yet, right? Which personally, I think that we do have access to that, but again, that's a topic for another day. But I think, there are things that we genuinely think are absolutely wrong, like hurting children, right, is a thing that we think are absolutely wrong, right? Rape is a thing that we think is absolutely wrong, right? There are things that we think are absolutely wrong, and we would have a real problem if somebody said, you can say you don't prefer that. You can say you don't prefer children getting hurt for no reason, abuse. You can say you don't prefer it, but to say that it's wrong, you can't really say that. Well, there's a reason that rubs us the wrong way. In my opinion, it's because they're really wrong. But the problem is the moment that you say that there's no objective moral truth, the moment that you say there's no actual moral standard by which we can judge things, then you actually can't say that something is really wrong. You can say you don't like it. You say you don't prefer it. You can say you think it would be better otherwise. But you can't say that is wrong and you're wrong for doing it. Now, for me, I think there's objective moral truth. So I can say that. I can say that I think some things are wrong. I can say that I think some things are right. You can tell me that I'm wrong, and I think I might actually be. But the thing is, if there's no objective moral truth, you can tell me that I'm wrong, and I can say, no, you just don't agree with me. And I think that's a sticking point for me. And the thing is, again, I don't think it's just because it makes me uncomfortable. I think it's because it's reflective of the reality of the world that we live in, that some things are right and some things are wrong. And the fact that we intuitively pick up on this, and people across all cultures, across all ages have made laws, right? Have made moral laws, have made social, cultural norms. It's because we're tapping into this truth about existence that is that some things are right and some things are wrong. And I just love this comment because he said, those things aren't even connected. That's a stretch. Try to think. No. You try to think. They are connected. If you think somebody really should live a certain way, that's because we should really live a certain way. And if you think it's really wrong if somebody lives a way outside of that, that's because there's really a wrong way that we can live. Now, we can argue about whether or not we have found the truth that I'm saying exists. We can argue about whether or not we are living in the revelation of that truth, or if we found it. We can argue about what is right and what is wrong, but that doesn't mean that there is no right and there is no wrong. Our cognitive limitations don't limit the truth of the matter, right? It's like if a gnat, said, well, I don't have consciousness to the same level as you, so consciousness doesn't exist to that level. No. Like we might not have reached access, so to speak, to that level yet, which again, I think we have. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because our perception isn't there, our cognitive abilities aren't there. And so again, kind of a different conversation there a little bit, not exactly though. But I just thought that was so great that I was told to try to think, because these things are not related at all, when really I think they are. And I think that the knee-jerk reaction against not being able to say you shouldn't act that way, you shouldn't speak that way, which is what this comment was. It was this reaction against saying like, no, we need to be able to tell people that they shouldn't hate others, that they shouldn't be bigoted towards others, right? Because this is what's going on in the West right now, right? We should be able to tell people they shouldn't treat people less humanely because of differences, all of those kinds of things. I think that you're right. We should be able to tell people that. But I think that because I think there's an actual right and a wrong. But if you don't think there's an actual right and a wrong, then what you're really saying is we shouldn't be able to do that. Or what you're saying is we shouldn't be able to do that unless it's my view, then we should be able to do that, which just isn't the way that it works. Sorry. And so I just loved it. I felt like I needed to just pull it up, make a video on it. I probably could have taken some time to write something down and make it a little bit more articulate, but something to chew on for a little bit. If there's no objective moral truth, if there's no objective moral standard, how can I honestly tell somebody that what they're doing is wrong or that what I'm doing is right? We can't. And if that rubs you the wrong way, maybe ask yourself why that rubs you the wrong way. And I would say it's because you're actually tapping into a reality of existence, that there is a real right and there is a real wrong. But if you don't believe that, well, what do you do with that? I don't know. I guess it's time to try to think about it.